Welcome to Inspired Living with Autism, a podcast where we get real about challenges and triumphs of raising extraordinary children while creating a life we really love despite dealing with autism. I'm your host, Antoinette, and today we're tackling a topic that I've wanted to discuss for a long time, and that's self-care for autism parents, and specifically why so much of the traditional advice out there just does not work for us. If you've ever felt frustrated when someone suggests to you, oh, just take a bubble bath or try meditation while you're in the middle of an autism parenting crisis, this episode is for you. So why traditional self-care fails us, and more importantly, what actually works instead. Let's start by acknowledging something that neurotypical parenting experts often miss: the unique energy demands of raising an autistic child. Now, I'm not just talking about the physical energy, though, of course, that's certainly part of it. I'm talking about the cognitive load, the emotional bandwidth, and the vigilance that comes with parenting a child with different needs. Think about a typical day. You start by navigating a difficult morning routine. You're managing sensory sensitivities around clothing or food, carefully phrasing instructions to avoid misunderstanding, advocating with the school about accommodations, researching therapies in any spare moment, translating your child's needs to others who don't understand them, preparing for and managing transitions, handling meltdowns, and constantly scanning environments for potential triggers. That's all just before noon. And it's not just the doing, it's the thinking, the planning, the anticipating, and processing that creates what researchers call invisible labor. When a typical self-care advice fails to account for this reality, it's no wonder it just feels hollow or even infuriating. The mainstream self-care narrative was simply never designed for lives like ours. Let's examine why traditional self-care advice often misses the mark for us as parents. First, there is the time problem. Take an hour for yourself each day. It sounds so lovely, but it assumes that you have an hour to spare. Many autism parents are already running on borrowed time, especially if they're single parents or they've got multiple children with different needs. When every minute is accounted for in managing daily life, finding an extra hour just feels impossible. Then, of course, there's the energy paradox. Traditional self-care often requires additional energy to initiate. And the cruel irony is that when most of us need self-care, you have the least amount of energy to make it happen. And after a day of sensory regulation, emotional support, and executive function assistance for your child, the thought of planning and executing even a simple self-care activity can feel overwhelming. There's also what I call the presence problem. Now, many conventional self-care activities assume that you can be fully present and undistracted. But autism parents often exist in a state of split attention. One ear always listening to their child, one part of the brain always on alert. This makes it very difficult to fully immerse in activities that require complete mental presence, like meditation or reading. And finally, there's the underlying expectation that self-care is something you do separate from parenting, a break from your real life. But for many of us, our parenting role isn't something we can regularly step away from, either practically or emotionally. So if traditional self-care fails us, what actually works? Now, I've spent years exploring this question, talking with other parents of autism and experimenting in my own life. And what I've discovered is that effective self-care for parents needs to work with the realities of our lives and not despite them. So let's reimagine self-care through the lens of energy management rather than time management. Instead of asking, how can I find more time for myself? Maybe we ask, how can I protect and replenish my energy within the life that I actually have? So here are some approaches that reflect this shift in thinking. First, let's talk about energy mapping. Most of us have never actually analyzed our energy patterns. So try tracking when your energy naturally rises and falls throughout the day and which activities drain or fuel you. You might discover that you have natural energy peak at 10 p.m. in the evening after the kids are in bed. But that's valuable information that you can use to schedule activities that require focus or creativity. Similarly, identify your personal energy vampires and energy generators. Energy vampires might include certain people, environments, or tasks that consistently leave you depleted. Energy generators are the opposite. They are things that reliably give you a boost even if they take a bit of time. Now for me, scrolling on social media is a major energy vampire that I was turning to when I was tired or not realizing that it was actually making things a lot worse. But on the flip side, I discovered that even 5 minutes of reading gave me a surprisingly energetic lift. Your patterns will be unique to you. So once you understand your energy patterns, practice energy alignment. Now this means structuring your day when possible so that the demanding tasks align with your energy peaks and restful activities coincide with your valleys. Now it might mean doing paperwork at 5 a.m. if that's when your brain is the sharpest, or saving phone calls for the afternoon energy bump after lunch. Now let's talk about micro recovery. In high intensity fields like sports and medicines, they discovered that small recovery periods throughout the day are way more effective than trying to recover all at once. And we can apply this to our journey. Micro recovery means finding those tiny moments throughout your day to replenish your energy. This might look like 3 deep breaths while waiting for the water to boil, doing a 30-second shoulder stretch when supervising your child, or stepping outside for a minute of fresh air while your child is safely engaged in an activity. The key is intentionality. So rather than scrolling on your phone for 5 minutes, which often depletes your energy as it does mine, you deliberately choose a micro activity that gives you an energy boost. Now these moments are too small to require planning or create additional stress, but they add up significantly over time. Related to this idea of energy layering, which means adding restorative elements to necessary activities rather than trying to find separate time. For example, listen to a favorite podcast while driving to an appointment or to work. Choose the scenic route for a necessary errand, for example, or use scented lotion that brings you joy when washing your hands. My personal favorite is sensory self-care. So intentionally engaging your senses sort of in small, pleasant ways throughout your day. So for example, keep a favorite essential oil in your pocket for an occasional smell break, or light a beautiful candle. Wear the softest socks. Take 3 seconds to really taste your coffee instead of just gulping it down. Now, many autism parents are already attuned to sensory experiences because of their children. So we can just redirect some of that awareness towards our own sensory well-being. Another powerful approach is energy protection through boundaries, and this means being intentional about where your energy goes. Digital boundaries are particularly important because many of us turn to our phones during brief downtime, but certain content can be so depleting. So consider creating technology zones in your home, like designated spaces where you use your devices to prevent the energy leak of constantly checking, or set up specific times when you engage with potentially draining content like autism research or social media or anything like that. Relationship boundaries are also equally important. Be selective who gets your energy. Some interactions just leave you feeling depleted and drained, and others leave you feeling uplifted. And it's okay to limit time with energy draining people, even if they're family. It's okay to redirect conversations that deplete you. I've personally had to set up boundaries around how much I discuss my child's challenges with certain relatives because they respond in ways that just make me feel worse. So instead, I save those conversations for my support groups and my coach, where I know I will feel understood and supported. Let's also reconsider how we approach restorative activities. If traditional meditation doesn't work for you because your mind keeps returning to your child's needs, try movement meditation instead. Walking, swimming, or even repetitive chores can create a meditative state that works better for busy brains, like washing dishes, for example. Now, if you can't find 30 minutes to read, try audiobooks in 5-minute segments during those transitions in your day. If a full yoga class is impossible, develop a 3-pose sequence that you can do anywhere. The goal is to adapt restorative practices to fit the fragments of time that you do have and the attention that you have, not an idealized version of life. Another powerful approach is community care, which recognizes that real self-care isn't just individual, it is relational. This means creating systems of mutual support rather than trying to do everything alone. Now, this might look like forming a meal exchange with other autism families where you cook one large meal per week, but then you receive deliveries multiple times. Or you create a childcare co-op where parents with compatible children take turns supervising so others can get a break. Even setting up like regular text check-ins with one another can provide that crucial emotional support without requiring much time. One of the most overlooked aspects of self-care for us as parents is sense making. Finding ways to process and derive meaning from our experiences. When we're constantly responding to immediate needs, we really get to reflect on the bigger picture of our lives. And sense making doesn't require hours of journaling, although it does work for some. It might just be a voice memo where you record while you're busy commuting, or a 5-minute conversation with a partner about a breakthrough moment, or even a quick note in your phone about something that you learned that day. These brief reflective moments help to integrate experience that might otherwise remain fragmented and stressful. And they also help us to see patterns, and they help us to acknowledge growth and to find meaning in the challenges we face, which in itself is a form of energy replenishment. Perhaps the most radical form of self-care for autism parents is what I call parallel play self-care. So this is finding ways to meet your needs alongside your child rather than separate from them. So many of us have discovered that conventional childcare isn't always an option. Either it's unavailable for children with certain needs, maybe it's unaffordable, or it creates more stress than it alleviates. Parallel play self-care means finding activities that nourish you that can happen while in the presence of your child. Now, this might mean creating an adult corner in a sensory space where you can read while your child plays nearby. It could mean choosing physical activities you enjoy that your child can participate in at their own level. It might mean listening to your favorite music together, even if you're engaging with it differently. Max and I discovered that we really enjoy walking. So we go to botanical gardens, we go to walks outside, and he loves the paths, he loves going a certain route, he loves water features, he loves, all the trees and the dogs barking even. And I get to just take in nature, I get to listen to the sounds of the birds, I get to breathe the fresh air. And this is something that replenishes both of us. So we're doing the same different activities, but in the same space, and both getting our needs met. So let's talk about the role of low demand time in self-care. So many parents are in a constant state of doing and problem solving. Sometimes the most restorative thing isn't adding another activity, even if it's a pleasant one, but rather creating those pockets of time with no demands at all. Bliss, doesn't that sound like bliss? This might mean sitting on the porch for 10 minutes without a task, taking the scenic route home with no podcast or phone call, or just lying down for 5 minutes without attempting to fall asleep. Now, this empty space allows your system to regulate and your mind to wander, which research shows is crucial for cognitive and emotional well-being. Finally, I want to address something crucial also that's often missed from self-care discussions, the role of external support. True self-care for autism parents isn't just about what we do individually, it's about the support that's available for us. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have access to respite care, qualified childcare, helpful family members, or even supportive school programs, use them without guilt. They are there for you. These resources aren't extra, they're essential infrastructure that allows you to sustain your parenting journey. It's not a weakness, people. If these supports aren't available to you, it's not a personal failing in your self-care practice. It's just a systemic issue that needs addressing. Part of the collective care is advocating for better support systems for all autism families. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Effective self-care for autism parents isn't about escaping our lives for brief periods. It's about creating a life that has sustainability and joy built into its fabric. The approaches we've discussed, the energy mapping, the micro recovery, boundary settings, sense making, parallel play, and low demand time are not a one-size-fits-all solution. They're frameworks that you can adapt to your unique circumstances. Start small. Just try one idea that resonates with you. Perhaps begin by identifying your biggest energy vampire and find one small to limit its impact. Or experiment with the 3 micro recovery moments throughout tomorrow. Remember that sustainable self-care isn't a fixed destination, but an ongoing practice of awareness and adjustment. Some seasons will allow for more restoration than others, and the goal isn't perfection, but intention. Making conscious choices about your energy rather than letting circumstance dictate everything. Now, before we go, I would love to hear from you. What unconventional self-care practices have worked in your life as an autism parent? Please share your experiences in our community or send me a message through our website. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Until next time, this is Living Life Inspired with Autism, where we walk this path together, one step at a time.